This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Canine Crew, it's time to just sell the damn thing. Doberman Dan is revealing his contrarian formula for getting a rush of new customers, building your business faster, and making the highest possible profits. Go to justsellthedamnthing.com to get your copy today.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
JR, how good's your Spanish?
Mucho bueno tacos.
Mucho sacamente español. So if I say la palabra tocayo, do you know what that means?
Tocayo.
The word tocayo?
No entiendo.
Okay. That's somebody with the same name as you.
Oh.
So Jonathan Rivera, we're happy to have Jonathan Gryzbowski on the call, your tocayo. And Jonathan Gryzbowski, Jonathan Rivera is your tocayo.
There you go.
Welcome.
Welcome, friend.
From now on, to avoid confusion, I'm just going to refer to Jonathan Rivera as I normally do, either Joe Nation or JR. And Jonathan, I'll call you by your real name if that's okay with you.
Listen, I've been called a lot worse by ex-girlfriends, so I'm totally cool with just being called Jonathan.
Okay, there you go. So you did a great interview with me, which I really enjoyed, for your Blind Entrepreneur podcast. So I just felt like I really hit it off with you and wanted to invite you on my show with no particular agenda, but just to chat about you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Feeling is mutual. I think you answered some really hard-hitting questions from my podcast where we uncover blindness in business, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm happy to be on the show and talk about whatever rabbit hole you want to go down.
I love it. Thank you for being open about that. The first thing I would like to clarify, though, is your podcast is called the Blind Entrepreneur Podcast. You are not blind, so you probably hear this a lot. Would you mind explaining why you call it the Blind Entrepreneur Podcast?
Yeah, so I correct. I very much so can see. I am not blind, not one bit. I do have blind uncles, ironically enough, but that's no relevance to the name of the podcast. The reason why I called it Blind Entrepreneur is because a lot of people, when they start their own business, are 100% blind. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what to do. They're stuck. They're lost. And what is the first thing that people do when they're stuck or they're lost? They reach out for help. And help can be in multiple facets. It could be a book that they read. It could be an article. I hope at least it can become a podcast. So the Blind Entrepreneur is just there to help people who are temporarily lost or blind in business. And we help people do their best to execute their vision, to turn their business into profitability.
Cool. That is an accurate description. They're blind to so many different things and distracted too, and often blind to the things they should be focusing on the trivial that makes no difference and blind to the important stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're always, even to this day, I would even argue that a lot of the top entrepreneurs that have quote unquote made it, they still have blind spots. They're still blind in some capacity because there's always something new that comes up to their desk or the situation that is brought to them. And we try our best on the podcast to just help other people. And I think, honestly, that helping mentality has been a mantra to my career, is just finding ways to help people, finding ways to give back, make sure that other people don't make the same stupid mistakes that I've made. Because I could tell you that if I had a mentor very early on, I have a good feeling that I probably wouldn't have experienced a lot of the issues that I once had in business and still partially have to this day. And so I use the podcast as a platform to mentor others and to help others cure that what I call could possibly be a disease in business.
Speaking of your career, Tell us more about your entrepreneurial path, how you got started on this. You didn't come out of the womb and become an entrepreneur. How did you grow up? Did you have a job before you became an entrepreneur? What was the trajectory?
I did have a job, so to speak, but it wasn't anything, I guess, substantial. So my entrepreneurship career started at 14, and I mowed lawns just like I'm sure a lot of other people have when they started their careers and things like that. Is I just found opportunity. So I grew up in a relatively rough neighborhood in Northeast Philadelphia. And I moved to a city that has a lot of land. So I moved to a city that has lawns and backyards and things that I've never even seen before. And so I saw these lawns, and I was like, you know what? I had a little bit of background in when I lived in Philadelphia mowing lawns, but the lawns in Philadelphia are like, a 2x4. They're not that big. So I decided to ask my dad for a lawnmower. He needed one for his own lawn. So I was like, hey, I'm going to use your lawnmower, Dad, in order to make some money on the side. And I learned a lot at 14, believe it or not. And I'd just like to highlight at least two things that it taught me in the very beginning was number one, hard work. I was out there with my friend and my brother for hours on end from like 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock at night when the sun came down. And it taught me the definition of hard work. And then the second thing that I learned was the value of $1. Because what I realized is when I was mowing these lawns, every time I tried to make a purchase for myself, whether it was like a video game or whatever it is that whatever 14-year-olds buy, I would always equate it to how many lawns that I had to mow in order to make that thing possible. And was that video game or bite to eat or whatever it may be, was that valuable enough? Will that bring me enjoyment to the point where it's worthwhile to mow 3 lawns in order to pay it off? So that fundamental belief was instilled in me very early on, which I think taught me a lot about my life, entrepreneurship, et cetera. But then my real job, so to speak, was when I worked for Apple. So I had a career for about 5 years at Apple, and I felt really dark and lonely at some point in time, and I knew what I had to do, and I felt like I had to quit my job because I was just so unhappy. And when I quit my job, I started a marketing company, and fast forward a bunch of failures. And it's about 5-6 years later, I'm here as a co-founder of probably one of the fastest growing companies that I can really read about. And that's just not just me bragging, but that's just me being factual. And I'm really happy. For the first time, I say my entrepreneurship career is the one thing that I'm really excited to talk about. It's the one thing that I'm really excited to explain and introduce to people because it legitimately helps businesses, and that's with Penji.
Tell me more about that. Well, first of all, I got a brief sidetrack. With a last name like Galapoo, I mean, I've had my name butchered so many times. And you know what keeps running through my mind? Like, oh God, I hope I pronounced Jonathan's last name correctly.
Yeah. I mean, that's normal.
Tell me how to pronounce it again, please.
It's Gryzbowski. So I always do 3 syllables. So it's like a grizzly bear, and you're bowing to the grizzly bear, and you're on skis. So it's Gryzbowski.
Okay. I'm pretty sure. I mean, we'll find out when we hear the recording.
No, you nailed it. Yeah, you did it.
I did? Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, note to editor, correct my pronunciation, and then I would pronounce it correctly here. But all right, cool. Sorry for that brief sidetrack, but I'm sensitive about getting the pronunciation of their names correctly since mine's been, slaughtered. I've been called Dan.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. No problem. Tell me more about Penji. This is exciting when you're working in a business that you believe in, you're passionate about, that is helping people. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, Penji is an unlimited graphic design service all at one flat monthly rate. So businesses, whether it's an agency, a startup, podcasters, the list goes on and on. If you have a business that needs graphic design, then we hopefully could and should and one day will be your primary source of graphic design. And if anybody that is listening, I can almost guarantee that you've had some horror story about finding a good graphic designer to fit your business. So what if there was a solution out there that regardless of the time where you live, regardless of the time of day that it is, that you could talk to somebody live without having to interview them, without having to make sure that they're credible and that they could do the right job? What if there was a solution out there that you sign up, you get on, and you can start receiving designs? That's kind of the idea and the philosophy behind Penji. So we can design anything from a logo to a business card, website, app, pitch decks, marketing materials, ads. I mean, I think there's like 140 something things that we can do and only about 5 things we can't do. So yeah, and it's all on a routine basis. So we're churning and pumping out as much content as we possibly can within that month, and then we do it all over again.
That is cool. How did you come up with that idea?
So when we were an agency. When I quit my job at Apple, I started a company called Pan Fried Media, which is a terrible, terrible business. But I have to share it because I think the story is important. The specialization that I had was restaurants. And I later realized that restaurants, although they are amazing, they don't necessarily have the money and resources to kind of market themselves. So then we pivoted and created a company called Waterfront Media, which was a high-end graphic design web development company. And we had clients from like universities to Inc. 5000, Fortune 500 type of companies. And we're constantly creating graphics for our clients. And we realized that it was extremely difficult to manage all these requests because the minute somebody needs something done, let's just say somebody needs a change for the date, that revision is going to go through an email. And then you're going to have to go back in time, say 6 months or so in order to find that revision. Or if they ask for like, hey, remember what you did 3 months ago? Yeah, I need that again. So what we did was we created this tool internally within ourselves to kind of manage all the design requests. So if a client asks for a Facebook ad, for example, we submit it to our platform, and then that platform then gets sent to our designers, and then the designer does it, and then we facilitate any and all conversations through there. We later realized that platform was such a huge resource and allowed us to scale our agency. We're like, you know what? This is going to help far more people than any agency could ever do. We're working with big companies, but who are we helping at the end of the day? We're helping the university make more money. We're helping the Inc. 5000 make more money. What if we were to create a tool and solution for the small businesses and the agencies and the people that are grinding and working their tails off and just need that additional level of support? And so that's when we launched Penji and said, you know what, this is going to be mass marketed. This is going to be for the people. And then again, here we are about 10, 11 months later where the product is live functioning, and we have a lot of customers and social proof to back it up.
Is this a virtual company, or have you got a bunch of designers working in an office with you?
Combination of both. So there are designers here in the United States. We also have designers in the Philippines, but every single person that is a designer or an employee, if they're a designer or any type of position at Penji, they are an employee of Penji. So we're not freelancing or anything like that. Yes, they work digitally, but everybody has to go through a strenuous training process in order to become a qualified professional and worker for Penji. So you're getting the cream of the crop and not just like some random person designing for you. Like
the crapshoot you get on sites like Upwork or
exactly
99 Design.
Well, yeah. I mean, so let's go down there a little bit. If you're working with a freelance website like Upwork, right, or Fiverr or something like that, nothing against those companies. They're fantastic companies and kind of paved the way of where we are today and allowed us to be where we are today. But sometimes it gets a little cumbersome to interview all these people only to be told that they can do the job. I'm sure there's people that are listening that have gone onto these websites and they said, yeah, I could do it. And then it comes back and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, this was nothing what I wanted it to be. And so that's kind of like the approach that we wanted to have, was we wanted to eliminate the training, the thought process, the production process, and we want to focus strictly on graphic design. And so as soon as you sign up, you get your designs done and you don't have to interview a ton of people to make sure that they're credible and they do the right job.
That's a really cool idea. So how was it to launch this and grow it? Like, did you have a strategy in mind of how you're going to reach your ideal clients, your ideal customers? or did you just get this launched and figure it out as you went?
A couple of things, yes and no at the same time. We started selling Penji before we had any type of technology behind it. We just started selling it to people that we knew because we thought that this service was valuable. And we started interviewing them and talking to them and say, like, what would you want it to look like? How would you want it to be? What is the service, the delivery, et cetera, et cetera. So we had about like 20-ish clients before we even had any type of software. Right before we launched the software, it's not really software, it's more of a platform. But once we launched the platform, we thought to ourselves that startups were going to be the best fit for our customers. So we were like, we're going to go all in on startups because it's at a price point of $349, where it's pretty palpable for a startup, but at the same time, it's also palpable for small business owners and agencies and stuff like that. So we thought startups were it, and we were so wrong. Like, we couldn't be more wrong. Startups loved it, but they didn't stay on for as long as we would have hoped that they would have. But then that allowed us to kind of tweak our process and tweak our advertising, I already said process, but it brought us to where we are today. So primarily we do work with startups, but we've found out that internal marketing teams to like large organizations, the print on demand industry, startups, small businesses, those agencies, those are our primary demographics. I could always go into more detail if you want to tell you how we got to where we are today.
When you figured that out, what methods have you used to reach out to those people who are your ideal target clients?
Everything we did in the very beginning was 100% unscalable, to the point where we just went. We had this conversation earlier, like yesterday, I believe, with my business partner and I, and we were like, you know what? We're a band of misfits. Like, we don't belong doing. We don't belong doing what we're doing, and we don't deserve to be doing what we're doing. But here we are doing it anyways, and we're gritty people. We're very gritty. None of us are qualified. We're very talented, but we don't have like the background that like an established person may have. We just go off of experience. And I think that's gives us the credibility to where we are today. But we did everything unscalable. So we used and leveraged our local network. I would implore that your next 100 customers are probably in the same zip code as you. You just need to figure out a way to tap into that market. But we used our internal our local network. We used cold email to obtain meetings to these local people. We ran events to create some type of email chain and database that allowed us to email people and get clients. And then the last thing was we did advertisements, like Facebook ads and Google and et cetera, to kind of raise more awareness about what Penji does and who we are.
So you actually did work. You ground it out. You didn't try to find some ninja online marketing trick or secret that would bring you thousands of customers a minute or whatever.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that at all. Like, we did the most unsexy thing on the planet. We probably could have found that one thing, but we were worried about survival in the very beginning. We didn't really care about growth. I mean, now we're a little bit more strategic about growth, but we just cared about surviving and providing a good service.
Yeah, survival's a damn good motivator, that's for sure. And, probably what would have happened if you would have applied the time and money to find that one thing, you'd probably still be twiddling your thumbs today trying to find that one thing and not have any clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think take action early and get on your horse as soon as you possibly can. And if that means you doing all the work and getting on all the sales calls and whatever it may be, then so be it. But get yourself to a point where you feel a little bit more comfortable, where you could hire somebody. And then once you're able to hire somebody, hire them for the job that you can't do anymore. So whether that's sales or email or phone call, whatever it is that you can replace the production, take that for what it is and just apply it. Hire people that are more qualified and smarter than you to do the job.
That's good advice. So what were some of the big challenges you ran across launching and now growing this business?
I'd say the challenges have been, I guess, being a little bit complacent. You see money coming in, you see money going out, but you come to a point where you're still not taking enough risks. And so I think that, this is a very transparent, this is a very real type of thought process that I'm giving you is, I say, even if past couple of months, we were feeling that was we're not taking enough risk. What can we do more of to put ourselves out there and to continue to market Penji and be in front of the right people? So I think it's just like not taking enough risks. Number one, I think ego was a huge aspect of it too, because you're in business for multiple reasons: to make money, to provide jobs, to create a future, whatever it may be. And I can say in full confidence that my ego got in the way, and still to this day partially gets in the way. I think my leadership ability. Well, yeah. So it's just my leadership capabilities could always be more tweaked, more fine-tuned. How to manage a offshore team, how to manage an internal team, how to hold people accountable if they're not able to do the right job, how to get people to take off a lot of the workload that you're doing. And then if you hire somebody and you end up doing the job, then why the hell did you hire them? So it's like a lot of those types of conversations that I've had internally it was a huge problem for us in the beginning.
So what's it like managing employees, going from a lean startup to now having to manage employees? Is that a challenge? Do you still do that? Does your partner do that?
Yeah, I mean, we both do it collectively. We have over 40 people now, which is pretty amazing to think. And so I think at the end of the day, you really have to just understand people. And it took a lot out of me to truly understand others. And to this day, I still say I'm not perfect, but I think to manage people, you have to understand their motivator. Like what is their reasoning? What is their why? Why are they here? Why are they helping you? Do they want money? Do they want to provide a better life for themselves? Do they want healthcare? Do they want to have their kid to grow up in a stable environment? I mean, there's so many things that come into play, and you just have to talk to the person that you've hired and find out what it is that they want, and then do everything in your power to make sure that their dream becomes a reality. And by you being their servant, so to speak, they're working for you, and by you helping them achieve their goals, they'll work harder in order for you to obtain yours.
Do you have any employee horror stories? Like, did the employee from hell somehow accidentally slip in and get hired, or have you been lucky?
I could say we've been pretty lucky, but that before Penji, I can give you horror stories. It's just people trying to. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd say every horror story that I can think about, it all stemmed from me not leading them correctly. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like, one employee hated my guts, and that's because I kept changing their not their position title, but like their role, like what they did on a daily basis. So like flip-flopping and things like that, it was 100% my fault because I wasn't prepared. But it ended up adding to turmoil because that particular individual needed more stability and they needed a more confident leader, in which I was not that at that time. But now I'd say, we have our ducks in a row. It's a little bit easy, not easy by any means, but we're able to manage it a little bit better because we're more prepared.
Oh, you know what time it is, Canine Crew. We got to split the episode. So we will be back with part 2 of this interview next time. Thanks for tuning in. Canine Crew, before you run off, I want to remind you, Doberman Dan has set up an off-the-chain hotline. Call in, tell us you love us. It's even better if you tell us you hate us. It doesn't matter what you say. All you have to do is call in, leave a message. The number is 321-424-6043. Again, off-the-chain hotline, 321-424-6043.
This is the podcastfactory.com.